So is Gunther a role player? We're going to talk about that in a minute. I just wanted to break it down for you guys. My opinion of Gunther in his current role as the WWE champion on Monday Night Raw, and being a part of the Raw brand and how the championship has notoriously been viewed in the eyes of the public here. Now, the one true undisputed champion we all know is Cody Rhodes. There is no denying that. He is the face of the company currently. He is the undisputed world champion. But the world championship on Raw, ever since Seth Rollins has had it, has notoriously been viewed as the workhorse title. Damian Priest was in a bit of an interesting situation where the program that was a part of his stable, his faction, the Judgment Day, took precedent over his title reign. And it was very interesting, and people started to pick up on it. And there wasn't really a substantial program, something tangible that you can look at and go like, this is a hot feud. This is a hot program for Damian Priest. He was basically trying to tutor Dominic Mysterio at the time, and he had one eye on Finn Balor and was questioning where his faction was headed. Why are these people in my clubhouse, etc., etc. So, because of that, and because things didn't really pop off between him and Gunther until about 2 weeks before SummerSlam, he did kind of look like a role player. I mean, there's really no denying that. But in those 2 weeks leading up to SummerSlam, one cannot argue with the fact that Damian Priest's championship reign started to heat up. It hit another gear. And in that hitting of another gear, we were ready to see a longer title reign with Damian Priest at the top of the card. Just so happens, his match with Gunther at SummerSlam was his last match as the WWE champion on Raw. Because of that, now Gunther is in a similar spotlight. Now the spotlight has been thrusted upon him, and people are wondering early in his title reign if he himself is a role player. So we're going to break that down. We're going to discuss that here just in a little bit. And this is my opinion. I'm no expert on this at all, but I'm just telling you how I see it from when I'm looking at it from my perspective here. And my perspective, I would say, no, I don't think he's a role player. And I think in establishing whether or not your champion on your brand is a role player, you really need to look at it from the perspective of the character. Gunther is not like the type of guy that would be at the top of the card looking for the spotlight. He strikes, and he is very methodical and very cerebral. He's not going to hold court for 25 minutes on the microphone. That's not the type of guy he is. He is one of those guys that when he comes out, he's going to make a statement. He's going to get in the opponent's head. He's going to get in the ring, he's going to chop fools, and then he's going to leave. That's kind of his MO. So he's not there to be all over the show. You know, he's not going to play the role of a Cody Rhodes or the role of a Seth Rollins or the role of any of the champions of the past like the John Cenas or even the CM Punks. That is not the role of Gunther. And actually, Gunther is one of those guys when he's not holding the championship, is one of those guys that as the champion, you have to watch out for. So he's not all in your face. He's kind of in the shadows. He's striking and preparing to strike. So, you know, a lot of comparisons and I really don't like to do this, but let's do this. Let's go there. Don't want to go here, but we're going to go here. Another one of the comparisons is with Swerve Strickland. Swerve Strickland on AEW, when he was the World Heavyweight Champion, a lot of people started to question whether he was really the face of the company because he was, not really promoted as such. And when he showed up, it was in the middle of the card or, really didn't have a spotlight on him as the World Champion. Now, the thing with AEW is they don't have two brands, right? I mean, they loosely have two brands with SmackDown, with Collision. So they loosely have their brands where some wrestlers don't even appear on Dynamite and vice versa. And so you can look at that as like a loose brand, but Swerve was on both shows and he was positioned on the Saturday after he won his AEW World Heavyweight Championship match with Christian Cage. So one could argue he was getting some airtime, but the difference between Swerve Strickland and Gunther and even the Swerve Strickland and Damian Priest, is that Swerve talks about it being his house. And I know that's going to seem like a cop-out, but honestly, if it's your house, you don't want to seem like a guest in your own house. And that is how he kind of came across during a large portion of his title reign. Now, I'll be honest with you, Tony Khan has since then sort of done a course correcting a little bit, and things are starting to switch, and it seems like it's switching around the same time as it switched with Damian Priest before Damian Priest dropped his AEW or his WWE championship. So we might see a little passing of the guard as well with Bryan Danielson, because it looks like they're starting to swerve, no pun intended there, into the direction of giving Bryan Danielson the championship run that he so rightly deserves, by the way. But this is for another video. Let's get back on topic to Gunther. Now, Gunther, because of the character that he is, you really can't fault the WWE for not giving him enough airtime or not giving him prominent airtime. But the fact of the matter is, when Gunther is on the screen, he's got your attention. And look no further than if he's getting a showcase and being, positioned at the top of the card, is to look at his opponent for Bash in Berlin. It is Randy Orton. You cannot get bigger of an opponent in the WWE than Randy Orton, who is chasing his 15th title run coming up against Gunther. So that is a very important match. So important, in fact, that Randy Orton was talking about it being the next Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat. And that's something I wanted to talk about as well, and kind of combine these two ideas here, where a match of Randy Orton and Gunther's caliber, the type of match that they would put on, isn't the type of match that you'll see in professional wrestling all the time. In fact, it's a very special match now. And one would argue a couple decades ago, it was one of the only types of matches that you would see, aside from a few high-flying matches and maybe a few hardcore matches. But this type of match now is so rare that it does hold its special place in professional wrestling and does make it a heck of a lot better. It's very methodical. It's a slow pace. There are things like rest holds. There are things like psychology. Those are the things in professional wrestling that have not become as normal or commonplace as they used to become. So when you have a match like those two guys will put on at Bash in Berlin, and trust me, if you've watched their match at Queen and King of the Ring, they will put on a match very similar to what I just talked about. Then you have to question if that is going to be a match of the year candidate. And if a guy like Gunther, in the eyes of the internet wrestling community, can put on these matches of the year, and when he gets on the microphone, it's very important, and he has shades of overconfidence with a smirk and a smile, and then he has shades of frustration like he had this past Monday on WWE Raw, where he looked like he was about to pop a blood vessel when he was talking to Randy Orton right before Ludwig Kaiser attacked Randy Orton from behind. You have to wonder, maybe this design of Gunther is really making him look more important. And if he was oversaturated in the WWE and all over Raw in a 3-hour program, maybe it would take away a little bit of his legacy. See, Raw is 3 hours long. Raw is not a 2-hour fast-paced program. You have to space things out. And in the format of WWE Raw, you usually see one of the opening programs be a hot feud. Then there's the middle portion of the show. That's a hot feud. And then you taper off, you couple it with a hot feud to end the show. The storyline progression is done in that way to keep things exciting and to keep you tuned in through the 3 hours, because 3 hours is a long time. So the format changes a little bit, and so if you see Gunther in the middle of the show, it's not necessarily that they're just placing him smack dab in the middle and he's not getting a prominent position on the beginning or the end of the card, even though he did open the program. Sort of open the program this past Monday on WWE Raw by interrupting Randy Orton. You have to ask yourself if in the middle of the card on Raw, if that isn't one of the most important spots, because you got to keep the viewer interested for that 3 hours. And if you're watching Gunther and Randy Orton in the middle of Raw, that's an important spot, just as important, in my opinion, as if you're watching at the beginning or watching at the end. So you shouldn't be asking yourself if Gunther is a role player. You should be asking yourself if Gunther's role is prominent. And if that is the question, then I have to say he is. But what do you guys think? Is Gunther a role player? Is it too early in his title reign to assume that he is such? You guys let me know in the comments. That's what I have to say about that. I know it's a very controversial topic when I try to combine AEW and the WWE, but I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to always voice my opinion, and hopefully you understand that. Hopefully the comments will give me a lot to think about and maybe a lot of different sides of opinions, because I'd be looking forward to those comments. Thumbs up on the way out, you guys. Let's keep the community and the engagement up. Let me know what you think. And as always, I'll see you soon.